Event troops in Clash of Clans are known to be incredibly strong. However, which event troop in Clash of Clans was the best so far? In this video, we will take a look at all event troops in Clash of Clans and rank them from best to worst. Of course, now on your screen are not all event troops, or well, not all temporary troops which have ever been in Clash of Clans. Of course, we're missing the Royal Ghost, we're missing things such as the Pumpkin Barbarian as well as the Battle Ram, and so on and so on. I am basically only rating the troops from the new events, which have started like Halloween last year with the Mesh of Madness event. We are only ranking those troops from the new events. So that's basically the first 4 event troops from the Mesh of Madness event. There will probably be more to come, so you can just continue this list indefinitely. But of course, these are the event troops we have seen currently in the game. So let's directly start off with the Barter event troop, which we of course saw during Halloween last year in 2023. And this was the first event troop which you could unlock. And especially in comparison with the other event troops which you could unlock during the Mesh of Madness event, the Barter troop was not really too strong. The Barter troop was basically a combination out of the Barbarian as well as the Sneaky Archer. So it had quite a lot of hit points, it did quite some damage, and of course it had the ability to be invisible for a certain amount of seconds. It made it quite good, but especially in comparison with the 3 other event troops which you could unlock during that event, it was really not good, so therefore I am going to put it in the lowest rank, being pretty bad. And now of course we continue with the Hog Wizard. And the Hog Wizard was a very, very interesting troop concept. Of course, it was a Hog Rider, and then it has the Wizard ability, so it was doing splash damage, and of course it could do ranged attacks, and in combination with that it also had a small aura surrounding the Hog Wizards, just like for example the Electro Titan. So it could also counter skeletons or any other swarm troop, making it quite strong, still not as strong as the 2 other troops. Or maybe like a little stronger than the Witch Golem, but I don't think so. I think the Witch Golem was still a little better. It was especially incredibly strong on lower town hall levels. On lower town hall levels it was completely unstoppable. You could just spam in mass Hog Wizards and then you had some easy 3 stars. On the higher town hall levels, however, you just had too much damage. And especially you have way too much splash damage, so the Hog Wizard was just really countered relatively easily. So therefore, I would say I'm not quite sure if I put it in quite alright or in pretty strong. Depending on which town hall level you were at the time. If you were anything below, I would say Town Hall 11 or anything below Town Hall 12, I would say it's pretty strong. But I was Town Hall 15 at the time. Yes, 15 was the highest Town Hall, and on Town Hall 15 I would say it was quite alright. But now we get to the Lavaloon. And the Lavaloon can probably be debated to be the best event troop ever released in Clash of Clans. Also, of course, surpassing the Royal Ghost. The Royal Ghost was always the #1 event troop. Whenever Halloween was around, you just basically couldn't defend in Legends League. Or well, it was incredibly hard. And then last year with Halloween, they didn't bring out the Royal Ghost troop, but rather they had the Lavaloon. Or well, a few event troops, and the Lavaloon was one of them. And the Lavaloon was, of course, the strongest of them all. You could just spam them down and you had some easy 3 stars. Of course, it is a Loon in combination with a Lava Hound. All of these event troops were just basically a combination of multiple troops, therefore of course also the Mesh of Madness event. And the Lavaloon troop was a combination of Lava Hounds and Loons. So the ability of the Lava Hound was to spawn pops, as well as to target only air defenses. And then of course, the ability of the Loon was to drop bombs after a few seconds. So they would just fly over the base and then dropping bombs onto everything. So you would zap out 3 air defenses, keep 1 air defense left up, send in all your Lavaloons straight through the base. They will spawn some pops which will do the cleanup, so you didn't need any cleanup troops, and they will drop bombs all the way towards the last air defense, destroying the complete base. It was madness. It was complete madness, and it was definitely game breaking. So it can be debated to be the best event troop ever released in Clash of Clans. There is of course one competitor we will come to at the end, but until then we can still think about if it is number 1 or maybe the second to best event troop ever released in Clash of Clans. Now coming towards the last event troop we had in the Mashup Madness event, and that was the Witch Golem. Of course, a Golem, so very tanky, and then of course it could spawn skeletons because it was a witch. And this combination of course made it very strong because it would tank any defense, and then those swarm units, those skeletons, would just crush anything. And they didn't spawn a few skeletons, no, they spawned quite a bit of skeletons. So they would just completely swarm a base. And I would say the Witch Golem was pretty strong. And now we get to the next event, which was the Cookie Rumble event, which we had last Christmas. And the first event troop you could unlock in this event was the Ram Rider, or well, the Gingerbread Ram Rider. And the Gingerbread Ram Rider, of course, it had the concept. It could charge through walls, it would target defenses, and it would of course charge to super speed after a few seconds. It was just really not too strong. It was better, it could have more impact than the Barcher troop, but it really was not too strong. So I think that's the perfect tier to put the Cookie Ram Rider or the Gingerbread Ram Rider. But now we get to the second event troop you could unlock in that event, and that was the Cookie. And oh boy, the Cookie was a fun troop. It could basically, well, not basically, it could one hit everything. Everything except for, of course, the Giant P.E.K.K.A, the Mama, which you can find in the last Goblin village. But on a normal Town Hall 16 base, you could destroy every single building or every hero in one single hit. And they were incredibly cheap. They had quite a few hit points. They would one-shot everything, and I believe it was 10 or 20 troop capacity, which it cost. I believe it was 10. And then one thing I didn't put into this tier list was the Frostmite spell, which you also had in this event. And the Frostmite spell needed a emergency nerf because it was just too damn strong. Same also goes with the Lavaloon troop. The Lavaloon troop also got an emergency nerf during the event, and it still was incredibly strong. But even the Cookie on its own without the Frostmite spell, I would say was pretty strong. With the Frostmite spell, it was of course game breaking, but that was mainly due to the Frostmite spell. But with that, the Cookie Rumble event is done, and we are going towards the Dragon Festival Lunar Year event, and now we're in the year 2024. And in the Lunar New Year event, the first group you could unlock was the Firecracker. The Firecracker, of course, does splash damage, has an incredibly high range, but it was very weak when it comes to hit points, and it was just very weak in general. So therefore, I think the not too strong category is quite fitting. It was quite alright behind Root Riders. So in Legends League, I used the Firecracker myself. I had a combination of like 8 Root Riders and 8 Firecrackers, but it turned out that Valkyries were just the better alternative to put behind Root Riders, and there was not really a good use case for the Firecracker. And that brings us to the Azure Dragon. The Azure Dragon was incredibly tanky, did a lot of damage, but it had weird targeting. It had a very weird targeting. Like, its breathed attack would bounce from defense to defense, but only in a specific direction, so only the direction which it was facing. And most of the times, it just didn't bounce onto anything, or especially not any useful defenses. So therefore, the Azure Dragon could surely help you to get 3 stars, but normal dragons or Electro Dragons were just better. So in this event, it was the first event where you really did not have a good event troop and nobody was using them in Legends League. So this was the first time where you had an event and Legends League was not completely broken, but I would still say the Azure Dragon was quite alright. And now we need to fast forward a few months. We had, of course, still a few events between the Cookie Rumble, between the Dragon Festival and between the next event, which is the Clash of Holland event. But all of these events were super troop based. So on lower tunnel levels, starting at tunnel 8, you could just unlock a super troop, for example, the Super Wall Breaker or the Rocket Loon. It was those two, I believe. No, it was a Super Dragon and it was the Rocket Loon. Exactly, the Super Wall Breaker event was later. First comes the Barbarian Kicker, did a lot of damage with one single shot and had an incredible range. It was so incredibly fun to use to just snipe out defenses. We of course also made a video of it. If you want to go back in time, have some nostalgia, you can of course click on the video above and take a look at how this troop directly worked. It was an incredibly fun troop, I would say. Out of all troops, it was the most fun troop we had so far in the game, compared to other event troops like, for example, the Cookie, the Witch Golem, or the Lavaloon troop. It was just not very strong, but it was quite alright, and I would still say it was stronger than the Azure Dragon, but not as strong as the Hog Wizard. And that brings us to the Throwin Giant. The Throwin Giant also had a really fun concept, and it also had one super shot which would bounce on 3 defenses and also did a lot of damage, as well as it would open up walls. It could have a lot of value, especially on teaser bases, if you combine it with a rage spell, but on most bases you just didn't have too much value with it. It would target any building with the first shot, so mainly it would just take out a few trash buildings, but it was quite fun to open up walls. But I would say it was still quite alright, it was not pretty strong. But now the question is, do I put it behind or before, in front of the Azure Dragon? And I would say I would still put it in front of the Azure Dragon. And this already brings us to the last special event we had so far in Clash of Clans. And that's the Anime Clash event we just had in August. And this again brought 2 event troops with it. First being the Mecha, second being the Broom Witch. I personally did not use it too much because the Broom Witch was just completely overpowering it. But again, if you were using the Mecha and you were using Mass Mecha, you could get 3 stars relatively easily. So therefore, I would put it in pretty strong, but not above the Cookie. And I think we also need to put the Cookie up in front of the Witch Golem. So I think this is now the correct order, and maybe we can even put the Mecha in front of the Witch Golem. And this already brings us to the final troop which we will have in this ranking, and that is the Broom Witch. And it can be debated if the Broom Witch is the strongest one or the strongest event troop we have had so far in Clash of Clans, or if it is the Lavaloon troop. But the Broom Witch, of course, did not get a emergency nerf in comparison to the Lavaloon troop, but still it was pretty game breaking. You could just spam in the troop and you basically already had 3 stars. So that brings us down to this being the list. Let me know down in the comments if you agree. I of course have a link to this tier list down in the description. If you want to build a tier list yourself, you can just send it to us on Twitter, tag us at RH Basebuilding. I would love to see your opinions on how you would rank the event troops. But with that, I would say see you guys next week with the next video. Until then, see ya and bye bye.